back to the Bethesda stream.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks for joining us. What should we talk about next?
I think we're talking about virtual reality.
Yeah.
We're actually going to talk about Legends.
We can talk more about
I'm
Legends.
kidding. No,
What? No,
Ashley was.
Yeah,
never mind.
Ashley, she's the one who messed it up earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, you all showed off some VR titles coming out.
We showed off 2 in our showcase. So we showed off Doom VFR and Fallout 4, the 2 you had up in your poll, and then Monday night we revealed Skyrim VR in the Sony press conference as well. So those are the 3 that we've got hands-on here in our booth.
Can I shout Fuss Roda in the Skyrim on the PlayStation version, and that'll activate a shout in the game?
I don't have the foggiest idea. Does the VR headset even do voice control?
I think they all have mics on them.
I have no idea.
I was joking about that the other day, and someone, I think it was Caden, reminded me that on the 360 you could shout at your Kinect.
Yes.
For to cue your shouts.
Which like 8 people used. I honestly don't know. I'll have to go back and check. I've never tried it.
I'm gonna go check, see if I can swing by the booth and check it out and try it out.
The thing that I know that you can do that is awesome and the most fun feature for me is in playing regular Skyrim with a controller, PC, and mouse, keyboard and mouse. When you go to use dual wielding, like for Magic, you're always targeting one thing, right? You're aiming at that enemy or that creature. But in VR, each hand can actually point in a different direction. So you get to do like multiple, like there's a thing coming from this side, and a thing from over here. You get to kind of...
So you've made combat much more flexible by opening
at least for the Magic casting, it was kind of an eye-opening, like, oh yeah, because each hand can do its own thing. They're not always automatically just pointing forward.
Well, how does that work? Do you have 2 reticles? Is there a reticle? How are you controlling where things are going, or are you just judging by your hand?
Yeah, it's literally just like where your left hand is pointing or swinging or aiming, that's where that thing is going to go, and wherever the right hand is, like it's going to do that. So you've got something coming from one side, you can whack it with the sword and have your left hand pointing at a different target. 2 things coming at you at once, you can
pretty
melt
amazing.
them simultaneously.
What does that do to swordplay? How does that change how the sword interaction works?
Well, obviously you want it to feel sort of kinetic and grounded, but it is like you're not just pressing a button and swinging at the thing that's in the center of the screen. You're like, if you have 2 things and you swing like this, you're clearly aiming at the one at the left, even if where you're kind of looking, or the one on the right, even if where you're looking is kind of in between the 2 of them, it's not swinging there. It's connected to your arm. Like wherever you're doing this, that's where it's aiming and doing its collision.
So it seems like, we got a little taste of Fallout 4 and Doom VR last E3.
Fallout 4, yes, and Doom. What we showed was kind of, sort of, a little. It was almost like the test bed for what we ultimately ended up doing with this.
But it seems, what I'm getting at is, it seems like Bethesda's really committed to trying to make virtual reality work. I mean, these are some of your premier top-tier titles.
I mean, we started working on this back in 2011, 2012. We had Doom BFG here, Doom 3 BFG here using VR. But it's a thing that we've been looking at, that all of our studios have been looking at. And, obviously everybody's not taking the same approach. Doom is a much smaller, sort of bite-sized experience. Skyrim is like Skyrim. Like, you want to play for 300 hours? Yep. Like, it's all of that content. It's all there. It's everything that you expect in Fallout 4 and Skyrim, but now in VR.
When you say like a bite-sized experience, what can they expect from? Is it a campaign? What is the?
Yeah, it's a campaign. It's sort of like I would almost equate it a little bit to Blue Shift, from that Half-Life series that we're still waiting for the 3rd one of. It's the story of like the last human that was alive on the Mars base, and you have this ability to sort of transfer consciousness from one thing to the other, and so you're not playing as the Doom Marine. And I want to be clear, like, you're not playing Doom 2016. Like, that is a vomit experience about 45 seconds in when you're moving and spinning that fast. But in this game, you're going through in the Mars base and doing all of the stuff that you're kind of used to, but you're doing it almost like as this android type character who can also kind of transfer his consciousness from device to device. But it's a shorter, I'm not even sure all in how long it'll be. Maybe it's 4 hours, maybe it's 5 hours. Lots of shooting. I heard you guys talking before about the teleporting, so doing the glory kill thing is a little tougher to pull off in VR. So we wanted to keep that that movement and that speed still, and so you'll notice as you're moving, you get this little slowdown ability as you're moving around that kind of replicates the speed of the original Doom and kind of the visceral, aggressive move forward aspect of it by in those moments allowing you to move a little faster than the demons can.
So we have a question here on Twitter. I think you already kind of answered this and touched on it. I just want to verify, though. Katie Horse Rider's asking, how close is the VR version to the original Fallout and Skyrim? And I believe you said Skyrim was the whole thing.
It's Fallout and Skyrim in VR. Like, there's no, like, we didn't take anything out. It's like, oh, well, it works, except we took these features out, or you can't do, settlement building in Fallout 4. Like, no, it's just those entire games in VR.
I mean, you mentioned that having the two hands and the freedom to independently target things in Skyrim was a big thing. What is there anything in Fallout 4 that you were like, wow, this really changed? Settlements?
Settlements. Like building settlements and moving stuff around is so much quicker and faster and easier to do. I spent so much time like mounting gun racks in my house and trying to sort of position everything. And in VR, it's just like, I want that there, I want that there. No, I'm going to move that over here. It's just like click, 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 point, point, point. It's pretty...
That's great to hear because I loved settlements in Fallout 4, but I would end up getting frustrated sometimes. Like, it's not in my mind. Like, it's not perfect. I'm going to destroy it all and do it again.
Yeah. The other one that has come up a couple of times in the booth, folks sort of saying to tell me like what they did and what they enjoyed was VATS seems to be a pretty big hit. That VATS in VR and sort of targeting body parts and then moving around to another space and targeting other body parts and kind of how that whole experience feels. They really enjoyed.
When you activate VATS, because VR is such a weird space in the sense that things that you could traditionally do on a screen, like with VATS, usually you had that zoom and kind of enhance moment where it went straight in tight on the creature. What did you do with that when it came to VR? Because if you do that, you're grabbing their head and like...
Yeah, you sort of have to strike this balance between being able to like target the thing, but then while VATS mode is activated, you can still move. You're not just like you can in the game. So we sort of had to walk a line between being able to kind of see what's going on with VATS, but then also allowing you to like target, teleport, or target and shoot, teleport, target and shoot again. The stats are obviously changing. If you want to shoot their right arm to shoot the gun out of their hand, and then once you have, zoom over here so you can actually hit them in the leg and cripple their legs, like you can do all of that in VATS. So it feels like a pretty cool kinetic experience that's still kind of what VATS was about, which is being a little bit more tactical and strategic as opposed to my ability to do this with a gun, while at the same time kind of embracing what VR is all about, which is like there is no screen. It's all around, and I can kind of move easily and fluid within combat.
So now in Fallout 4, will we have like the Pip-Boy on our wrist? Are we looking down to activate all of that?
Yeah, to pull at the Pip-Boy, you do this.
Look down at it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, there is going to be depending on the platform, like other options, button that you can press instead of doing that. But like when you're playing, you want to pull up your Pip-Boy, you just do this, and there's your Pip-Boy, and you can look at it and change the screens and look at your stats, change out your inventory, and then when you're done, you just put your arm down.
Hopefully it still pauses the game, because I know I use that many times when I'm in a sticky situation. Like, okay, Pip-Boy, let me think about this for a little while.
Stim packs.
Yeah, a couple of stim packs, and we'll rethink the way I'm approaching this.
Yep.
Both Skyrim and Fallout have kind of a stealth system, because I'm normally kind of a stealth character. How does VR impact how that works? Do I have to actually like crouch?
Well, because you have because you have sort of controls in your hand, it's pretty. But yeah, if you wanna crouch, I think the mode that we have right now is the like squat down and you're in stealth. They've been actually playing with a number of different ways of sort of moving through and different control systems for movement and how things work. So the final mix is still kind of in flux.
It's another crouch option, right? It's no longer just toggle crouch, hold to crouch. It's also like crouch to crouch.
I mean, if I crouch to crouch, I would absolutely throw out my back within a couple of minutes, because I'm always crouched.
I want to say the last time that I played, it was on a button and I wasn't actually crouching. But now I'm not actually sure which version I played versus the way it works now. So I
appreciate the option for both, because
I think my back is a little too old for crouch to crouch anymore. Like you said, I think I'll appreciate a button.
Yeah. Particularly if you're playing very stealthy and you literally have to stay that way the whole time, that might be bad.
Yeah, and I'm not very good at squats, or I don't have the legs.
I always said VR was going to turn gamers into the next race of superhumans.
Just from all the physical activity.
Yeah, we're all going to be physically fit now.
Yeah. You just weight the controllers, play a little Skyrim, you're good.
Or even like dealing with encumbrance. It's like once you're encumbered, it's like, oh, now you gotta pick up like a 100-pound pack.
That's the next level.
And hold
right?
it on.
Yep.
Yeah, and hold it.
Get the full experience.
I'm excited that, like I said, Bethesda seems to be really doubling down, investing on VR. Do you, what's your, not on a Bethesda level, on a personal level, do you have a preferred platform to play VR on?
I don't think I get the luxury of ever saying that. Of like, oh, no, this is just personally has nothing to do with the company. Okay. Actually, right now, I don't. And to be honest with you, I'm not a huge VR person. Because I still struggle with motion sickness in some first-person games. So even the ones that people are like, oh, it's great, this VR game doesn't make me motion sick, good for you, it makes me motion sick. So when I play Fallout and Skyrim and Doom, it's in very short, digestible chunks. It's 10 minutes here or 20 minutes there. Like, I am not a guy who could play Skyrim and Fallout 4. But, like, I also struggled with Doom 2016. Like, I could play that game for a half hour before I start getting motion sick. It's just some first-person shooters still throw me off, and VR in general, whatever it's doing to my eyes or brain, it still messes with me, and I start feeling a little dizzy.
The only, so this is going to be a weird thing to say, but the only game that ever did that to me was the old original Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Oh yeah,
the like shareware on floppy. Like, it was
really
like the first 3D game, or quote unquote 3D game I ever played. Like sitting down to play it, it just hurt my head.
Yeah,
it was something weird about that.
You just
game.
had to get over like a mental hurdle to make it where that sort of thing was okay.
Right. It was like a transition. Right. It's like we had never seen like a first-person shooter type game before. So then experiencing it for the first time, I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. And I feel like maybe it's the same thing, hopefully with VR, where people can get used to it.
There's folks in my department and in our company who have the same issue, and none of us can figure out what it is about either our eyes or our head that work. And some of us are fine with shooters and not fine with VR and get a little both. I'm hoping eventually I get used to it, because it sure is a fun way to play games that I hate to miss out on.
Yeah, I feel like I'm very lucky. I've gotten used to it. I've really not had any trouble with any VR title.
That's awesome.
So
I had a really weird transition with that, where at first especially the early VR had a lot of things like you're on a roller coaster, and you had that very mental version of what movement felt like. And then eventually it just stopped, and now I don't get any of it.
I envy you. I can't watch the roller coaster intros with the popcorn and soda at the beginning of movies. That's how bad mine is.
Well, with Doom, that game is so about like the environmental pressure and psychology and just everything around you really kind of starting to wear in on you. Did you have to pull it back at some point where you're like, we're playing this game and people are just, they rip the headset off?
Yeah, it is a balance thing, and I think it goes back to the we can't do Doom 2016. Like that's just not viable in a VR experience. But we can do something where you're under assault. It's an onslaught, but because of the way movement works and so forth, you can manage it and sort of handle it in a way that doesn't make you crazy or want to rip the headset off. That it feels like a Doom experience. It looks really good. It's super fast and super smooth, but it's not like turny, spinny, like I'm gonna make myself throw up. That the intensity level is kind of fun and interesting, and you do get a few down moments where you kind of figure out what's going on in the station and what's going on in this particular game, so that it's not just 5 hours of nonstop intense combat. I'm not sure how well that would fly, but at the same time, it's a lot of combat, and it's a lot of Doom combat, so it's cool and fun and bloody and visceral.
So, you're showing off some of these games here at your booth. Have there been any unusual reactions or like unexpected things that you've seen people do?
Somebody I was talking to yesterday, and I was like, well, what was your favorite part of Fallout 4? And he's like, I was in VATS, and I shot this guy's leg, and then I teleported over here, and I shot him in his other leg, and then I had damaged him enough that I teleported again and shot him in the head, and his head exploded. And in VR, I got to watch his face come apart and his jawbone. I was like, dude, really? Like, that's the thing you focused on with VR? Like,
I play Fallout 4 for the gore.
Yeah, I was like, wow, okay. Like, I thought it might be the content and like the sense of immersion, but sure. Like VR slow-mo jawbones coming apart. Like, okay, that's a thing.
Well, that's
each their own,
that's the kind of immersion he wants.
Yeah. To each their
and
own.
you wrote his name down carefully and
Backed away slowly.
Well, thanks so much for joining us again to talk about VR. But we're both huge VR fans.
I'm all about it.
And we're super excited to check it out. And they're both coming later this year, right? I think Fallout 4 is October.
All of them are this year.
Yeah, great. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.